Claude Cowork's underlying model scores 80.9% on SWE Bench verified, and Antigravity's comes in at 78.8%, but Antigravity is free to start, and Cowork isn't. 2 points of benchmark lead versus $0 out of pocket. These two agent tools are both live right now, and I'm putting Claude Cowork up against Antigravity across 5 head-to-head tests to find out which one actually earns your workflow. The 20-a-month question is which tool you should actually pay for, and the context window test is where that answer gets complicated. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this comparison traces back to something Anthropic or Google actually published. If you're choosing a 20-a-month agent tool for daily knowledge work, the wrong pick costs you real time every single week. Test 1. Cost. The day you sign up for a tool and realize the free tier doesn't include the product you actually wanted. That's a frustrating surprise. Claude Cowork is excluded from the free Claude plan entirely. So if you're a casual user who wants to test before committing $20 a month, that exclusion matters a lot more than any benchmark number. What I found is that both paid tiers start at exactly $20 a month, so the entry price is identical. Cowork's Pro drops to $17 if you pay annually, which is a small but real saving. What surprised me is Antigravity has a genuinely free individual tier. Rate limited, sure, but it exists. Cowork has nothing at $0. Now, the free tier caveat is real. Antigravity's free plan is rate limited and community reported, not a full speed experience. If you're planning to pay anyway, both tools cost the same $20 a month, so this gap only matters if you want to get your hands dirty before committing. For anyone already subscribed to Claude, the cost picture looks completely different. Cost is a tie on the paid side, and that's pretty much what I figured going in. Antigravity's free tier is the only way to test either tool without spending money, and that's a real differentiator for casual users. Score stays at Claude Cowork 0, Antigravity 0. 1 tied, but the risk framing here favors Antigravity if you're not ready to commit. Test 2, Coding Benchmark Performance. A solo developer who hands a 500-line bug report to an agent and gets back a wrong fix just burned 45 minutes of debugging time on a bad answer. The model quality underneath the GUI is what determines whether that happens once a week or 10 times a day, so the SWE bench numbers here are not just academic. I looked at the published model scores, and Claude Opus 4.5 hits 80.9% on SWE bench verified, while Gemini 3.1 Pro comes in at 78.8%. That's a 2.1 point gap. Bear in mind, these are model level scores, not the agentic wrappers themselves, and neither vendor publishes a system-level score for their GUI tool. Antigravity's system result I couldn't find anywhere. Claude Cowork takes this one. Honestly, I thought it'd be a closer call given how hard Google has pushed Gemini 3, but the 2.1 point gap on SWE Bench verified is real and it holds up. Claude Cowork goes up 1-0 with 1 test tied. The safer pick on raw model quality is Cowork because the downside of a weaker model compounds every single day. Test 3. Speed. You're literally hammering an agent with a 10-task queue on a Friday afternoon, and it's just sitting there, and you have no idea if it's slow because of the model, the wrapper, or your internet. Not knowing which tool is faster means you can't even diagnose the bottleneck, and that's a real operational cost when you're running agents on anything time-sensitive. What surprised me here is that neither vendor publishes any speed data at all. I couldn't find a tokens per second figure or a task completion benchmark for either agentic system. Both tools advertise parallelism. Cowork splits big projects into chunks, and Antigravity 2.0 runs multiple local agents at once, but there's no measured number to compare on either side. The parallelism features both tools describe are genuinely similar on paper, so even if we had speed numbers, the gap might be small. What matters more for most workflows is whether the agent can run unattended overnight, and both tools support that. Speed is kind of a black box here, and anyone claiming one is faster than the other right now is guessing. Speed is a no-winner call. No data, no verdict. Claude Cowork stays at 1, Antigravity stays at 0. 2 tests tied now. You can't pick a tool based on speed claims that neither company will actually publish, so don't let this dimension tip your decision either way. Alright, so we've got context limits and deployment modalities still ahead, and those two tests could completely change how you think about the 20-a-month decision. Context window size, in particular, is where one tool has a published number you can plan around and the other just goes quiet. And that silence has real consequences for anyone running long document workflows. Test 4. Context and output limits. The day your agent silently truncates a 150,000-word codebase mid-task and returns a half-baked answer, you've just lost hours of work to a limit you didn't know existed. If a vendor won't publish their context window, you're flying blind every time you push a big project through the tool. I looked at both vendor pages, and Claude Cowork's 200K context window is confirmed directly by Anthropic. There's also a community-reported 1 million token window on the Pro plan, but that's single source, and I'd take it with a grain of salt until Anthropic confirms it. Antigravity's context window I couldn't find anywhere, not on the product page, not in the docs. Now, Antigravity is built on Gemini, and Gemini 3 Pro supports very large context windows at the model level, so it's possible Antigravity is actually competitive here. But possible isn't published, and if you're planning a workflow around a specific context size, you need a number you can rely on. The absence of data from Antigravity is itself a planning risk. Claude Cowork wins context limits, and this one wasn't close. A confirmed 200K window versus a number Antigravity simply won't publish is not a fair fight. That puts Claude Cowork at 2 wins, Antigravity at 0, 2 tied. The safer pick is Cowork here because the downside of betting on an unpublished limit is real. Test 5. Deployment and modality. A non-technical content manager who gets handed a CLI-based agent tool on Monday morning is going to spend the whole week not using it. The interface determines whether the tool actually gets used at all, and that's a hard cost in productivity every day the tool sits idle. What I found is that these two tools are genuinely built for different people. Claude Cowork is a desktop GUI overlay, no terminal needed, and it even adds Chrome OS support that Antigravity doesn't have. Antigravity is a full VS Code fork with its own CLI, which is way more powerful for developers, but steeper for everyone else. Antigravity's multi-model agent assignment, mixing Gemini, Claude, and GPT in one session, is something Cowork simply can't do. Deployment is a tie, and I thought Cowork would pull ahead given the GUI first design, but Antigravity's multi-model flexibility is a genuine counterweight for developers. Both tools cover their target users well. That brings us to Claude. Cowork 2, Antigravity 0, 3 tied overall, and the final call really comes down to who you are. Claude Cowork wins on 3 concrete things. First, a confirmed 200K context window from Anthropic directly, so you know what you're getting. Second, the underlying model scores 80.9% on SWE bench verified, which is measurably stronger than Antigravity's 78.8%. Third, the GUI first design with no terminal required opens agentic work to non-technical knowledge workers who'd never touch a CLI. Antigravity wins on 3 things too. First, it's the only tool here with a free individual tier, so you can actually test it before spending $20 a month. Second, multi-model agent assignment in a single session, Gemini, Claude, GPT, is something no other tool on this list does. Third, the full VS Code fork plus a dedicated CLI gives developers a surface they already know how to use. Okay, so here's the honest call. That 80.9% versus 78.8% benchmark gap is real, but it's not the whole story. If you're a non-technical knowledge worker who needs a GUI with no terminal, Claude Cowork is the cleaner, safer path. If you're a developer who wants model flexibility and a familiar IDE, Antigravity is probably the better fit. Start with Antigravity's free tier, test it, then decide if Cowork's model quality is worth $20 a month. Alright, so if you're still figuring out where Claude Cowork fits versus the CLI version it wraps, I put together a full breakdown called Claude Cowork versus Claude Code, which should you use? And it answers exactly that question with the same kind of sourced, no-fluff format you just watched. so go check that one out next.